Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and with Matthew recovering after running a half marathon today, it's myself and Ryan. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to catch up with you again. I think a bit soft that Maddie's, can't pull up for a conversation after a half marathon. It's only a half, not a full.
Yeah, I vaguely recall you actually checking in after the marathon.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. We did a call. I think it was even in the car after, although I couldn't walk for about 2 days after a marathon.
It's okay.
But,
you still showed up. It wasn't even 2 hours of running based on Matt's time.
Exactly. But no, it sounds like you did very, very well going sub 2 hours and on track for the big one.
Yeah,
excited.
Yeah. How's everything in the UK? What are you doing for the final day of the Queen's Festival Jubilee or whatever it is? Are you doing anything?
Yeah. Queenie's Platinum. Going to go see a comedy show this Arvo, actually. So that'll be good. Go out for a bit of brunch. Just enjoyed a couple of days off, to be honest. I went as completely English, United Kingdom, etc. This is. When I watched Maverick on the weekend. So that's how I used Queenie's Jubilee. So not very British at all, very American.
How was the sequel to Top Gun? Because Top Gun's like a cult sort of classic. Like it's typical 80s sort of film, but if you like it, you love it, I think. What was the sequel like?
Yeah, it was amazing. It's getting really good reviews and would not be disappointed with it because it definitely stacks up with the reviews that it's getting.
Okay, I have heard that the flight scenes towards the end, the last sort of 30 or 40 minutes when they go into the sort of flight mode, that's amazing.
That's incredible. It is basically like the original on steroids with 2022 tech. Yeah, would definitely recommend that. But we did see like the flyby and the flyover on I think the Thursday or Friday that was all heading for Buckingham Palace because we're not too far away from there. So that was cool to kind of see, and obviously everybody's out and about and had a couple of pints in a pub. I think that's very British.
I remember when I went to the UK, I think it was when I went with my wife, and she wasn't my wife then, my now wife, and we just stumbled across Trooping the Colour. We had no idea it was on because you're not reading newspapers or really watching news when you're kind of staying in the UK. And we just kind of walked down. We're going to go walk down to Buckingham Palace today, and we're like, people everywhere. And it turned out it was Trooping the Colour. It was awesome. So it was completely spontaneous. I actually quite enjoyed it despite hating the Royals, but the spontaneity of actually going there and seeing it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of people have been up and about, which is good to see.
Even Harry.
Yeah, even Harry got there. Although sure enough, I was walking out of I think like the shops the other day, and front page is about Harry and Meghan and William and Kate and what's going on. And I think the media is having as much fun on the Jubilee weekend as everybody else enjoying the 4 days off.
Good old media. They suck.
Yeah, they're definitely jumping on it. So, but it's good. There's a bit of sun around, which is nice. Still in a jumper though. Maybe next month I'll be in just the t-shirt, which would be good.
Well, it's a cold snap here, so we're not expecting the temperature to get above 13 at any point in the next week, and it barely has over the last 3 or 4 days. So that's probably tropical in England most of the time. Maybe not this time of year, but getting towards it.
Yeah, you say 13 and I go, I think we've got 19.
Well, what we can talk about tonight is changing jobs, because you've recently, in like the last week and a half, changed jobs.
I have indeed. Yes. Very glad to have. I have moved on to the executive team of a health tech company that I'll look after sort of Europe, UK, and the US, which should be really interesting. although I had one day between finishing my last job and starting this new job, which is not something that I would recommend to anyone.
One day.
Yeah.
What caused
Took myself
that?
out for lunch. It was nice.
What caused that? Like, is it just the timing of how these things worked? Is it the notice period?
Yeah, so I was on a 3-month notice period here,
That's brutal.
which is pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. And the new job was quite keen. You know, we've been in discussions probably around back end of January, and definitely through Feb and then early March, kind of all came together. And they were pretty keen to have me in from April because there's a lot going on there, and it's really exciting. Great time, great space. But yeah, so I was kind of hoping to get the golden thing that they have over here, which is what they call gardening leave, which is where you basically you just working your notice period out, but you're not allowed to go start your new job, but you still get paid. To which, so I kind of put and said, look, they want me to start early. I pretty much got told that the preference was definitely my notice period. And unfortunately, there was a couple of bonuses and a few things that were tied to them not having paid them on time. So it kind of got me in a bit of a bind there. So yeah, I ended up working a 3-month notice period. And then, I mean, I would have loved to have had a week or two off in between, but I'd felt that I'd already dragged the other job that bit too long. So, you know, hopefully what they say about change is as good as a holiday comes into play. But it's, yeah, I was a bit bummed because I tried to pull the gardening leave thing because it's sort of a light competitor, but technically not. And basically there was just aspects of my role that I had to do some conflict of declarations and step out of a few little things. But by and large, I pretty much had to run the thing through. And it is challenging because after about a month, it's fine. And then you just get really checked out. You're just like, I'm tired. And all the little things that irritated you per se in a role, they then really irritate you when you know that, you know, you're leaving in that, and you're just like, okay, this is jacked. So, but there is that whole, you know, it is a small world reputation. You never know when you're going to cross people again type situation. So you still got to put in and do the work for it. But it feels like, yeah, you're at times winding down a prison sentence.
Yeah, you're a more diligent man than me. I've left 2 professional roles. In the first role, I was working, I resigned, and then they said, oh, listen, can you stay on for 2 or 3 months just to kind of transition stuff across, and can you help out with a few things 3 days a week? I said, yeah, okay, I can do that. And this would have been about September, I'd say. And it was going to be, they go, well, let it go until past Christmas, and then maybe go in the new year, we can see how it goes. I'm like, fine. So starting a business, an accounting business. So I started the accounting business, meant to be working 3 days a week at the firm I'd resigned from. And then they'll pretty much give me a full-time load of work. So, you know, I meant to be doing my own thing. They're trying to layer about like 5 days of work on a 3-day load. I'm trying to transition this stuff for them. I got to the Christmas party. And on the day of the Christmas party, because I knew all the admin people, so I handed my laptop in, I handed my pass in, I did everything. Like, and it gets to about 8 o'clock at the Christmas party, and one of the, like my not the boss, but the boss's offsider. So like, you know, basically 2 bosses of the division, and boss number 1 was the one who's mainly looking after me, and boss number 2 was talking at the Christmas party after function. He's going, oh, you're so hard on boss number 1. All right, I just lost it. I've gone, you can go and fuck off. The way you've treated me in the last 3 months, you just walked over me, you can fuck off. I'm not coming back after Christmas. You can fuck off. And that was it.
Don't they call that the American dream? To just be able to walk in and tell your boss to go get fucked.
In fairness, it was 8 o'clock. We'd been drinking since midday, and he just was winding me up about like how I'd been treating boss number one. I was really harsh on boss number one. I've gone, mate, I've resigned. I'm doing you guys a favor, and you're writing me, and it's 8 o'clock at the Christmas party night, and you're still writing me. You can fuck off. And then I just walked out. I just I said goodbye to a few people. Like I'm still on good terms with like pretty much everyone at the firm. It was just one of those things where I think we all understood that maybe they were kind of dicking me around.
Yeah, you've been burnt through. And I think it's a really hard thing. Like when you leave a place, you want to leave it better than you found it, without a doubt. But you also don't want to get taken for a ride, and there's a really fine balance on that. And I think the longer the time period is, the more you can feel like you are taken for that ride.
I would have thought, like, having gone through that, having heard your story, there's a happy medium there where, like, if you're the organization, if I was where you were working, I would have been like, listen, Ryan, you got 3 months worth you have to work out 3 months. How about we pay you for 6 weeks and you leave now? Like from basically, even from after you resign, just give us a week and then you can leave from there. We'll pay you for the extra 5, but we know you're just going to be a pain in the backside. So instead of poisoning the well, how about we just meet in the middle?
Yeah, I think that there's a real challenge at the moment that is like I left even after 3 months, my job hadn't been replaced.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real challenge with like getting people at the moment, doing all that kind of stuff. But annoyingly, like I look back on it and go, maybe I should have been a bit more cynical and negative, because I actually worked quite well for those 3 months. We actually performed really well. Yeah. And I was like, I'm really not doing myself any justice here to get some time off.
You should just drop some F-bombs. That's usually a pretty good way of doing it. It was the second way when I finished up at my second role before I was literally, it's the last job I've had. We booked our honeymoon. I'd resigned and like there's meant to be 4 weeks notice. And the partner's like it's a 4-week notice period. Like you've given us 2 weeks. I've gone, yeah, I won't be in the country. So I'm happy to work remotely, but I ain't going to be in the country in after 2 weeks time. So my notice period is 2 weeks. What do you reckon? There you go. All they could do was say, yeah. I go, I'm not going to be here. What are you going to do? Like, you can't make. I'm happy to work it overseas, but I'm not going to be in the country.
Yeah, I think the best that I got was basically I took a week holiday myself in there, which is good. I think on hindsight and having spoken to a lot of other people who have made moves and swapped jobs and those kind of bits and pieces, I think I would have put a bit more planning into it. I kind of just rolled in and I was all focused on about the resigning part and not really focused on about the transition part.
Yeah.
So I kind of resigned. They went 3 months and I'm like, well, these guys want me to start. But look, I can see why. We've got a lot going on. Let's go as close to, but basically like 1st of June, I need to be out. And yeah, in hindsight, I really should have been a bit smarter and been like, no, look, we need to negotiate. Let's make 2 months, not 3 work or something like that. But I was so swept in the just getting to resigning rather than thinking of how to do that. But it's speaking with a few other people, you really feel like you're in no man's land because you can't put like heart and energy into what you're doing. And inevitably, as it gets longer and longer or closer and closer, people find out that you're leaving anyway. So you can't really make anything happen. So you're all just kind of treading water.
Yeah.
Which I think in a larger organization is actually slightly beneficial for them. In a smaller organization, it can be quite toxic, as you say.
Yeah. And you probably didn't, you might have had the option of just going in one day without any pants on. That's usually a surefire way of being removed from the workplace.
That probably would have should have taken some inspiration from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the key, because there is a real mental shift when you start something new, and especially with guys, it can be so attached to the identity. Like I've noticed personality traits that have come about that have already changed significantly since just leaving. And that I think is probably a bigger thing about moving roles, and why, if you can and the opportunity is there, just to have a bit of gap between the two, because inevitably very few people, I think, bring their true self to work, and then you start to bring another version of yourself, and it might only be a little bit or it might be a lot. I know plenty of people that are chalk and cheese from when they're at work to, and that would be exhausting. And I had a little bit of that, undoubtedly, and it was exhausting. But to have that kind of break and just kind of reconnect again, and then work out how do you want to front up more so into your home life post your work life, I think is a gift that, if you can do that, is well worth doing.
Yeah. So you're saying you kind of were bringing the frustration of, being trapped at your old job home?
Yep.
Yeah. I understand that. We've all been there.
Yeah. And it makes you be like a person that you just don't want to be. And that's really where I think the length of that period, but also me not really knowing that, and just almost being able to separate the two and go, actually, I'm just going to be different, because we're in this no man's land, and not getting frustrated to be like, will this thing end? It is doing my head in. And then letting that seep through. I think that is probably a lesson that I hope to take through into the future.
Yeah. It was a good time to learn it. Yeah, very good time to learn it.
Indeed.
Wow. So change, new role. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Is there a happy ride at home already?
I think so. Gonna go see. Haven't seen live comedy in ages. Like, gonna go see that this afternoon. Feeling up and about. Yeah, I think as guys we can really, because our identity can get wrapped into what we do for work so much, you don't think it's creeping. It's one of those like really incremental minor things that you're just like, oh, well, okay, that I was a little bit like this at home, and then that just becomes the norm, and then you just push the boundary a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and before you know it, you've kind of actually reshaped a whole lot of things. And that, when you sort of have a big change, I think is an opportunity to have the mirror kind of in front of you and go, oh, actually, there were some real things here that I did not like, and how to change that to not have that in the future, or not continue that, I think is a real opportunity, and one that, by only having that day, I'm going to have to run in parallel with the change, rather than, if anyone does have an opportunity to just go, I'm just going to zone out for 2 weeks. It's definitely a gift that I would take.
Yeah, I've almost zoned out for 12 months now. I've sold my business in June last year. I'm almost coming up on 1 year on that. And that was linked to, you talk about identity in workplace. Like, I've been like a client-facing accountant for 20 years, and just pulled the plug 12 months ago. It's 12 months down the track, and still kind of, it's just interesting times.
Yeah, I think they say like peak times for things like depression and anxiety and all of that is inevitably when you're at the back end of your teenage years, which makes sense because the world is a big and scary place, and when you retire. But I actually think something in particular for guys is when you let your role become more of your identity than you probably should.
Yep.
And when you realize that you've done that and how that's made you as a person inside and outside of work, and especially if it's not great, which in my case of late it hasn't been, it's a real kind of eye-opener to go, that's not great, and that's not who you want to be. So how do you come back from that, I suppose, is the thing. And change gives you the gift to have a look at that, I guess.
And you're lucky you're self-aware enough to actually be able to identify that. A lot of people wouldn't be able to identify that themselves. Like, you're self-aware enough that you could kind of pick that out, and maybe your TK might have helped you pick that out as well. I don't know.
I think there's a combination of self-aware, and then there's a combination of a few people bobbing up going, actually, yeah, you've been an asshole of late. So, it always helps when somebody can just maneuver the mirror to get in front of you, I would say.
Well, it's good to have the old Ryan back.
Yeah, let's hope it stays through. And yeah, I love a sense of adventure. That is one thing that I've noticed that it dropped significantly. But it feels like treading into adventurous times. So at least change gives you the opportunity to go on a new adventure. So hopefully this one goes a bit better.
I think it's a great place to wrap it up for this week, mate. So remember to subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes if you haven't done already. While there, please leave a review. Tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they're guys. And most of all, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode, or should I say serving of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.